I can give these visual cues but retain a certain level of ambiguity, you really get at something that's universally understood or universally hits.
My name is Sergio Gomez. I'm an artist, curator, gallery owner, author, and co-founder of the Art Next Level program. And my goal with this channel is to make marketing and art business easy so that you can grow your art career, find new opportunities, sell more art, and spend more time creating in the studio. So if you like that, make sure you click on the subscribe button and click on the little bell so that you receive notifications of our future videos. Well, hello, my friends. I'm here with Manya Stoumen-Tolino, and she's joining me from her show, What the Sky Let Go. We're going to have a great conversation about art, about putting together an exhibition, the ideas behind the show. First of all, Manya, thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm great. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm very grateful to have a conversation with you anytime, Sergio.
That's awesome. Well, I've been super excited to follow, the journey of your career and also leading up to this exhibition. For our friends who may not know you, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm an abstract figurative painter and I do, even though I work with a lot of different media, I consider myself a painter first and foremost. I'm currently living in Frederick, Maryland, which is just outside of DC, and originally from Philadelphia. Went to school mostly in Philadelphia, went to art school at University of the Arts. Actually, when I first was there, it was Philadelphia College of Arts, became University of the Arts, and then I went to grad school at University of Pennsylvania, Graduate School of Fine Art. And, and then there's life.
then life came about. Absolutely.
Yes.
And now, when did you start like that particular style of the abstract figuration and the geometric forms? Is there a specific time that you remember, or was kind of like slow evolution that you arrived to that?
I think in some respects, I've always been doing something that was hovering around what I'm doing now. My work always starts with movement and gesture. More than often, it's human, though other organic forms are very prominent in my work and a source of inspiration. So, I can remember when I was a little kid just being out in nature, and I always loved animals and people and movement. And my earliest kind of drawings were just out, quickly grabbing something that felt like a movement that was important to me in a little sketchbook, I feel like this has been, it's kind of gone back and forth. Okay. There are times where my work has been what might have appeared non-representational abstract work, but the gesture, the figure, the mark making was always about some human impulse and gesture.
Yeah, which I can definitely see on that. And I find that your paintings to be as much as about drawing as they're about painting,
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel like that too, where your work, besides kind of have this intuitive process, which I think it comes from drawing, the drawing is such a way of mark making that is so relevant in your paintings. Even though we're looking at a painting, we're also looking at a drawing surface. So tell me a little bit about both. How do you go about, painting versus drawing? Do you see any difference to them? Do you treat them as one? Do you start with drawing and then add the painting over that? Do you go back to drawing? Kind of like the relationship between painting, and the drawing. The dry media versus wet media, pretty much in your surface.
Yeah, I think those are all really, really accurate observations. the role of drawing can't be kind of um, ignored for me when I'm working. And certainly, the first thing is, I'll answer your question with saying that they really do meld together and they become one. Even in terms of my approach to color. Color, even though I studied color, the way that we all study color. And, I can mix whatever colors I want and, have a good idea of that from an academic standpoint. But when I'm dealing with color in a canvas, it's very much the mark making that creates layers. And through those layers come the color. So the drawing and the act of painting and the act of drawing are very much intertwined in my world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's why I make the point, because I think, as I look at your work, that's what I love about the surface of your works, and after seeing them in person, they're very rich. There's so much richness, there's so much mark making, and then there's also the layering of the paint, the fluid color that you apply and you play with and you work with. And following your work for now some time, over the years, I know when I first met you, your palette was like very colorful. There were like a lot of colors in the surface. I've seen over time that, particularly in this show, as I look at the exhibition, that maybe, and I don't know if it's just for this show or in general, there's a bit now, you're a little bit more selective or more monochromatic in a way in some of these works, where even like the black and white becomes more dominant than some of your perhaps earlier years, where it was like very intense, lot of color. I feel like in these ones, the figure is the more prominent,
Mm-hmm.
and the color seems to be a lot more calculated. Tell me a little bit about that transition. First, let me know if I'm correct on that.
I think you're absolutely correct in that. And I think I have recognized, I love color. Just we all love color, right?
Right, right.
And I went through a period where there was that kind of joyful interaction with color and in and of itself. And within the past 2 years, I think, the color has taken on a little bit different meaning, and also there is a little bit more recognition about how I do things, how I can be most true to who I am as an artist, recognizing that those drawing elements, I think it was Susan Rothenberg who said something to the effect of, I thought I was a colorist, but I'm really a black and whiteist. And that really resonates with me as well. It's really about, contrast and form created with that. So
yeah, it's something that I really enjoy. From your progression, I really enjoy the season in which you are in right now, because you are an artist in control, and you're making like those more calculated decisions as to what goes in the canvas in terms of the color, and you're coming out with really strong paintings. We have two in the back, that we see in the background there in the part of the show. So let's talk a little bit about what the Sky Let Go. Tell me a little bit about what's the idea of the show, the premise that what the Sky Let Go is about.
well, this show is here at Tag the Artist Gallery in downtown Frederick, Maryland. And one of the wonderful things about working in this community is that we're an artist run, owned gallery. And so you pretty much have the freedom to do whatever you want. And as I was developing this show, I always start with the work first and what I see naturally developing in my studio. And the themes, um, and we're all human beings, we're all reacting to the forces, external forces that, might change how we're feeling, either emotionally, spiritually, about the world. And it's, a very uncertain time.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's always an uncertain time. Being human has its own, vulnerability, and even being anything here on Earth has its own vulnerability. So, it's kind of like what fell out of the sky is falling.
Right.
But what did you can look at it a different way. What did the sky let go?
Mm.
What can we come up with? What is being transformed? What are we left with? What is
Yeah.
being released? All of those things kind of occurred to me. And the title, honestly, just kind of came to me one day, and it stuck.
Yeah. No, I love the idea. Like as you said, the sky is falling, right? We can open up the news any morning. It feels like the sky is falling in every direction, socially,
Mhm.
politically, economically, you name it, right?
Environmentally,
National.
yeah, absolutely.
And and as you were talking about, I was thinking like it's so true. When something is falling, it has to fall on something, right?
Yes.
It will not fall forever unless I guess you're in outer space. At
Right.
that point, I don't know if it's actually falling, but here on Earth, when something it falls pulled by the gravity, and at some point it hits bottom, hits something, and I love your analogy of like you are doing something with that which has fallen, with that element, which is uncertainty in many ways.
Yeah.
And I love the analogy of that and how you bring that into your work. So as just an artist absorbed by what's happening in the world, and then making sense or dealing with it in a way through your art and through what you are doing. Do you feel like the mystery that we encounter in your work in some way also reflects some of these unknown or mystery or struggle. And a lot of your pieces, the figure is in struggle, right? Your
Yeah.
figures are not pleasantly sitting, enjoying a day at the beach. They
No.
are in a fight. They are in a struggle. They are on a constant, um, like battle. That's how I would describe it. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, um, again, that's very accurate. I don't think I've ever successfully drawn somebody sitting there. Something always has to be moving. um, but that struggle of it's really the internal, external, and our sense of the beyond.
Mhm.
Um, and is there a struggle?
Mm.
So it's on one level, it has been just something that I see when I see movement, and it represents change for me. It
Mm.
represents how things move through the world, how they change as they
Mhm.
move.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, and there's a sense of, like describing for friends who may be listening to the podcast and not looking at the video, but like the two paintings that you have behind you, right? We see the figure and movement, as you mentioned. There are a lot of things happening. It's a lot of symbols of motion and movement.
right.
As we move, almost like leaving a trajectory or a history behind that movement. And
Mhm.
then the figures, their identities are being covered, right? There's
Yes.
some sort of looks like a black cloth or something that it's covering only the face.
Yeah,
So you're playing also with a sense of identity, right? Where we
absolutely.
wondered, who are these people? Who are these figures? What's the struggle about? And they're running towards me, towards the
Yes.
viewer. So again, another conscious choice, right, that you make as an artist is involving me because now they're coming towards me. So what am I going to do, right? Do I go and hide? Do I, do I defend myself? Do I confront them? Tell me about the role of identity plays in your work.
Well, with identity, I always want there to be some purposeful ambiguity.
Mm.
And with some of these figures, I've been really pleasantly surprised at how many people come in and they're really having their own experience.
Mm-hmm.
And because they'll be like, oh, well, it's a female figure, but it's so masculine. It's covered. It feels like my sister, like it's very interesting. And I think that the the more I can give these visual cues but retain a certain level of ambiguity, you really get at something that's universally understood or universally
Mm-hmm.
hits
Mm-hmm.
and connects. I mean, that's, for me, it's that connection
Yeah.
to people. But yeah, um, they're very they're their own things.
Yeah.
They
And
become their own things, and they tell me what to do.
I love that.
So,
And I do enjoy the ambiguity of the work because then leaves room for me as a viewer to play,
yeah,
to then make those questions or figure that out. And because each one of us, we come with our own baggage or with our own experiences, like the two paintings that you have behind, as soon as I saw it, it reminded me of a lot of like the muralist paintings that I saw in Mexico, which were a lot about social struggle. The figure was like, fighting, against the norm of the time. Uh, and there's also a lot of movement, like in the work of Siqueiros, who's one of the biggest muralists in Mexico. If you see his work, you'll find a lot of those like in, intensified sense of movement and the figure on struggle. And so I bring that into the table, right? When I see the work, it brings me
right,
back to those ideas, and I'm able to capture that. And because again, there's an ambiguity to it, allows me to play with my past and my present, right? And I love that. I really enjoy that, which I think something that as an artist myself, I like that, with like my figures are always start with somebody I know perhaps, but then become anyone, become a universal figure, and which sometimes could be read as male or female, and
right,
and, and allows people to kind of engage in a way that is not literally everything set in stone.
right. And that's something that I very much like in your work. It's that same kind of the figure. Sometimes feels like it's just released. It's
Hmm.
just there's this moment, and it just is between something starting to happen and transforming.
Yeah.
And that's something, and the works that you're talking about, the muralists that you're talking about, absolutely. There's those figures that, they have just released their bondage,
Hmm.
or they're in that process. And this is something that is a recurring theme with my work, and super important to me as well.
Do you feel the ambiguity that you bring to the table, as a viewer looks at the work, with trying to make sense of that? For you as the artist, do you find also aspects of the work that are also ambiguous for you, like perhaps they slowly will reveal themselves over time?
Oh,
Like
yes.
you do not see them right now in this moment in the studio, but maybe after you look at your work in the show, all of a sudden, something is revealed to you.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Because I try to stay in a constant state of play and and accepting when I'm in the studio.
Yeah.
I don't try to think too much around the work. The the more personal involvement that I can have in the work, and yet not get too caught up in what my either ego or what thinking is going to make of this thing, the better and the more kind of universal that the work seems to become. Otherwise, you're your hands are too all over the work.
Yeah.
Eventually, it's got to go.
It's gotta go right. But it seems like you enjoy that tension of
I do.
of not knowing exactly. You know some parts. You have some ideas, certain
Oh
things
yeah.
that drive you to make it, but they're also having that comfort in saying, I don't know everything about the work, and I'm okay with it, with releasing it, and it will reveal to me as time goes by.
Absolutely. Yeah, there are times where I'm very, very certain I know what the painting is going to be. I'll have seen it, I'll have
Yeah.
dreamed it, and I'll go, and then it reveals something completely different to me, or become richer in its becoming. Um,
I love that
so,
idea, becoming richer. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, yeah. That's good. I also, another aspect of your painting is the fragmentation. There are a lot of fragments, sections,
mhm.
and actually in the show you have the pieces that uh, and there might be more, but two that I remember that actually are physically in fragments. That there's a
Yes,
larger part to it, and then there's a smaller part to that painting, almost like a diptych. But typically, a diptych are like in equal parts. You see
right.
a diptych with two pieces, usually in the same size or similar. But in yours, is like even there, right? There's that dynamic of there's one part that is much larger, and there's like this another part that is much smaller. So adding the question like why, why is not cut in half, or why is this part all by itself? Tell me a little bit, whatever you want to share about those fragments, fragmentation in your work.
Absolutely. That's another thing that has, gosh, I started doing that when I was in art school and abandoned it for a while. And I think initially it came out of, I lived in Italy for a long time when I was just out of art school. And, you see works that were made of many parts. Um, and that kind of different narratives, but joined together as a whole, started to become prominent in my work. And then I guess I abandoned it. And recently I started needing it again in the work, but in a different way. I think initially there was one painting that I, it was so active. It was a very large canvas, very super active in the canvas, and I'm like, I need breath up here, and I literally run out of canvas. There was like I definitely pumped the impulse through the canvas, but it was almost too much, and there were certain lines. The drawing of the work
Yeah.
really wanted to go way past, and I felt like it was so far past, and the energy really went in such a direction that I needed something else. So I built another section, put it on top, and I realized, and so it became like a thought bubble. It became like a repository of the energy that was moving in that direction.
I see.
Problem with that was I was making those stretchers myself, and I'm not the best carpenter in the entire universe. And the first, the first one bowed. It warped,
Yeah.
you know. So I made, fast forward a little bit, I made, I don't know, 6 of them
Okay.
before I looked at it one day and I went, that line is actually perfect.
Okay.
So I took the thing, ran into the shower, and got it all kinds of hot in a hot shower and started wrapping it to increase the bowing,
That's
to
funny.
increase the warp. So and not everybody sees it right away. Most artists do, but a lot of people go, "Is that warped?" It's like, yes, it is, because
Yeah,
it
it's
started
intentional.
to, the tension, it's intentional. Also, the tension and the line started to become very important and natural, and really encapsulated that kind of feeling above the work,
Yeah.
like a thought bubble. Like, I mean, if I go too far, which I have,
Hmm.
clearly, at times, if you don't push, you don't find out. I've gone the other way. It looks cartoonish. Too
Yeah.
much. It looks cartoonish, but I want that sense of almost respiration.
Mm.
That there's energy. That there's and a continuous line that
Yeah.
goes throughout the piece that becomes a whole.
No, I like that. I like your idea of a repository of the energy, or almost as well, a capsule of the energy that's happening. Because yeah, there's so much energy in your work. It's expansive. It continues. It moves, and it wants to get out of the canvas. So that it's almost like a way to catch some of that before it evaporates and continues to expand in the universe, which I really
Yeah.
like. And I think that's a really great example of you as an artist, thinking conceptually about the idea, right? So, you have something, that practice that maybe you used to do, and then thinking about how does it relate to the work, how does it conceptually also fit with the piece and with the line, with the movement, and you came up with something, right? With something that
Yeah.
it's just, it makes sense, and something that there's a reason why, and it's a conceptual aspect to it. And I think that also speaks to your maturity as an artist. And I think, your body of work being very strong, in my opinion too. I feel that, you have gone through a lot as an artist to find your imagery, to find your language. um, I feel that, that only comes with hours and hours of hours in the studio, hours of thinking about the work, of making, listening to the work. So I think you have a lot to also to offer to uh, artists who may be watching this right now, and they're in that journey. They're trying to get to that point where they can, build a body of work that fits who they are, and that is the result of everything that you have done. What would be a word of advice that you would give an artist who is in that journey right now, trying to get to that point, that perhaps something that kind of help you keep going, even in moments where maybe it was frustrating, or it wasn't working out? But what would you say to an artist who's in that journey right now?
Um, just make a lot of mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, and don't be afraid to give it time. And it's funny. I went to school. I was very, very young when I went to art school and grad school, and came out very strong, was showing right away. And I had instructors, mentors who were like, whoa, maybe you ought to cool your jets. And and it was great advice. I didn't realize I was going to have to kind of put the business side
Hmm.
aside. I mean, that's a whole nother personal story, but it really served me well to learn what I needed to learn, even outside of painting, to take deep dives into things that made no sense, and to just keep going. I'm a Philadelphia girl originally, and I can't say it any better than Jalen Hurts after the last Super Bowl, who say can't lose if you don't quit.
Right.
you know, and we don't quit in Philadelphia. I mean, it's true. It actually is part of my formation, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that helped
Hmm.
because there is a certain amount of grit and stubbornness. You know, you have to stubbornly defend
Hmm.
your right to keep going.
Yeah, I love that. I think that is really, really great advice for anyone, who's in that journey right now. Because sometimes it feels like, why, it's too hard, too much, or will I ever gonna get there, right? And it takes time.
And it is.
It
It is too hard. But it's, if you
exactly.
really want to do it, I mean, if that's what your passion is, you have to keep going, or else you just live with it sounds corny, but a hole in your heart. It's
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
to
And
honor yourself first.
yeah, I totally, totally agree with that. So tell me, as we begin to wrap up our conversation too, what is a typical day for you in the studio?
Typical day for me is my cat yells at me first thing in the morning, and I have my coffee with him. And I usually do some kind of activity, some kind of movement. That's very important for me, literal physical movement. It's almost like meditation for me.
Mm.
I do a little meditation as part of that whole cycle. And then I hit the studio, and the cool thing is, I never know what I'm doing next.
Right.
Usually have a good idea. Oh, tomorrow I'm going to work on this series or that series. I've usually got a million things going on at once. And when I hit that door, I know, no, it wasn't the thing I thought I was going to do. I'm doing this.
Mm.
And even if I am having a day where it just isn't, I'm not feeling it, I do something else. I get out into nature. I stretch some canvases. I prepare some things. I just keep going. I think that's another thing. It's just important to keep going.
So it sounds like not knowing what's next is a fuel for you in a way.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I can see that in the work too. That's why there's always movement, because in movement, you don't know what's on the other side, right? What's coming.
Right.
The faster you move, the less time you have to prepare for it. As if you sit down, I'm gonna plan, I'm gonna think. So right, you are in your work, and probably in your mind, you are always on the go. You are
Hmm.
looking, searching for the next step, and that
Yeah.
takes you, and I think that takes you to really interesting places, and that
Mhm.
that takes you to the world that you are creating, where sometimes I think you are ahead of the work in that sense, and that's why, like, coming back to it later gives you, reveals more in itself, because you are like step ahead of it in a way.
Yeah, and it's not unusual for me to have to turn things around and not look at them for a while so that I can see them clearly. And so,
On the way
um,
back. So you can
on
see
the
them on the
way
way
back.
back.
That's right.
I'll get back to you. Just let me give it
Yeah,
a minute.
I just hold that thought. It's
And
too
that
much for me right now.
and that's part of you know, in your art practice, you talk to your work in that sense. You know, you listen and you go back and you listen, and it, it's a give and take. I think
Absolutely.
I would say in your work, you know, the struggle that's in the painting is the struggle that's in between the artist and the creator and the creation. You know,
Hmm.
the object and you as the artist pulling the art pushes you and you push it back and kind of like tug of war.
Yes, it's kind of like I've worked a lot in water. So I've done a lot of physical work in water.
Okay,
The more water, the harder you push water, the harder it pushes
push
back.
it back.
And
Yeah.
you've got this 360 degrees of resistance that is constantly, it'll drag you one way and you have to apply pressure. So it's kind of like that.
Like, yeah, I love it. I love
Got to be careful it doesn't just drag you off into.
it. Right. And you gotta know where how to stand, right, to be able
That's
to
right.
fight it back. Very cool.
Yeah.
And again, congratulations. I think the show looks fantastic. Your work looks fantastic. And you're
Thank
an
you.
artist who also we have the pleasure of working with inside the Art Next Level program for quite a bit. We've seen your trajectory. You've inspired us in many ways too, as well. In sometimes or morning sessions or in different ways, things that you're doing, your own wins. Now, tell me just how the Art Next Level has also helped you in your own art career in some way, or
I
influenced your career.
honestly don't know where to begin. It has been so incredible for me. I had gone through a long period of time where I didn't want anything to do with the art world, even other artists. I kind of distanced myself from everything. And probably a couple of years before the pandemic, there's that natural break in life with the pandemic, before the pandemic and after the
Right.
pandemic. So before the pandemic, one day I woke up, I had always been working in the studio. And I went, you know what? I think I want to show the work again. I had, this kind of epiphany. And started to show, started a little bit online, a little bit here, a little bit. But I quickly learned that I did not have the tools that life now, because when I was in school, there was no internet. There were, I'm still walking around with my slides and all that nonsense, right? And fast forward to probably around during COVID, I was really searching for something, and I had seen Breakfast with Sergio, and loved it, and had been, and then I learned about Art Next Level, and I was like, oh, let me give it a try, and instantly this sense of community. I realized, wow, that's not only am I getting all the tools, it's anything I want, all the things that I have no idea how to do. But this community that encourages you to do them with grace, and feedback and positivity. And it really something that I didn't find anywhere else. So it kind of led Art Next Level in some respects, kind of led me back into everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's very cool. Thank you for sharing because, it's artists like you who make it such a wonderful community, such a wonderful place. We come from all different backgrounds, all different ways of making, ways of thinking. But, it's that community that, uh, you know, even though we are miles away, I feel like I know you, right? Like
absolutely.
even though we have already met in person, we had the fortune
Yeah.
of already meeting in person, but these conversations that happen sometimes in the community or in the Zoom sessions, it just gives you a certain uh, closeness to the people that you are connecting, to the art that they're making, and you know you could be in a session and then you finish like you think about something that somebody said, like, oh, Manya says this, or Richard said that, and those kind of thoughts, are good things to have in our career. So I want to thank you for that, not only for being part of it, but also being willing to share your journey, your trajectory with our community as well.
Well, I think it's an unusual community led by people who have an unusual viewpoint. There really isn't anything out there that leads by example, with also, I'm wanting to use the word confront, but it's not that. It's, address your mind, your body, your spirit, your art, your business, all the things that go into the business. It's a very comprehensive, holistic program that, I so appreciate.
Thank you, Manya. We do appreciate that as well. Thank you so much. So I know a lot of our friends will want to know more about your work, will want to go visit your website or follow you on Instagram, which we encourage everyone to do so. Can you please share where can we find you and online and on the web?
So my website is www.manyasart.com. You can find me on Instagram at S.M. Stoumen, Tolino, which I'm sure you'll have to post.
We'll put it in the comments. We'll put it in the description, no problem. And
I show regularly here at TAG, the Artist Gallery in Frederick. I have a few pieces with 33 Contemporary that I'm always delighted to have.
Of course,
out there.
We're delighted to have as well. It's a beautiful collection that we have available on Artsy, but please check it out too. I'll put the link also in the description. And to wrap it up, I would love to know, what does Manya does on a day when you're not in the studio for fun, to refill your tank? What kind of makes you happy outside of the studio?
It usually involves, well, I love hanging out with my boys. I have two adult sons. And it usually involves food and skiing. Or something like that. Well, or going to look at art. There's a few things that I like to do, but I have a deep love of the mountains, and I go frequently to New Mexico. Wow. And I go ski out there, and I go way up in my little slice of heaven in New Mexico, and hang out there and eat a lot.
That's good. You need that weight to be able to go down the mountain.
That's right. Yeah.
That's
Try and get faster.
Gotta get there faster. There we go. Thank you so much, Manya, for joining. Thank you for sharing. Congratulations on the show. Beautiful work, beautiful exhibition. Continue to wishing you great success in your art career. And thank you for joining us. And to all the friends, please do us a big favor. Both Manya and I will be really happy if you like this video, or if you like the podcast and you share it with your friends. I think there's a lot to learn from our conversation here with Manya. So thank you. Have a great day. We'll see you at the next level.
Thank you.